Um,
We're live right now, so
okay, we'll talk after.
okay. Uh, Hello, this is Renee Manfred with What's Your Passion podcast show, and my passion, or our passion, is your passion. And I always like to bring on really some good special guests each week to really just share some insight on their story, what their passion is, really where they are, and how they're helping people. And I have a great pleasure of meeting Chris Doelle. We don't even know each other. We kind of got onto one of our Christian podcasts. I think it's Christian podcasters on a social media, correct?
Right.
And I put a post out there, and it's like tremendous amount of people have answered, and I just haven't not had time to go through it. So I've reached out to you as one of those first ones.
Cool. I love it.
So I know, Chris, I mean, just share with me a little bit of your story. I know you told me some you've been in this for like a long time. I looked at your stuff. It's incredible. So yeah. I mean, just share your story. Go with it.
Yeah. And first, I don't want to correct you. It feels rude, but my last name is pronounced Daly, even though it's spelled extremely odd.
I do apologize. Okay, I do apologize. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. D-O. Yeah. You wouldn't think that.
Yeah. Nobody gets that. I get it. But yeah. So about me, I usually start with I was born a poor black child. Just to see who from the era that would have watched the movie The Jerk with Steve Martin, because that's where I stole that line from.
Right.
But no, I've been a marketer for 30 years, and before that, I was a storyteller. You know, in junior high school, I would write stories that included all my classmates, and they lived for when I would bring a new story and read it to them. Of course, it was blood and guts and, murder and all kinds of crazy things that a junior high kid writes.
Right.
But I discovered I love telling stories. And so it was natural that I went into marketing, because What is marketing but telling stories? And then when podcasting was invented, I jumped on the bandwagon real early. I say the bandwagon, it wasn't even a bandwagon. It wasn't even a trail. It was... we were forging new ground, and just because I saw it as a potential for sharing stories, and what I've discovered, not only everybody understands that everybody has a story, but I think everybody has an amazing story. So I loved sharing those.
No, you're true. It really is storytelling. It's basically people need to know you, like you, and trust you, and you get to know people through their stories, because we all have, like you said, stories. Yeah. We have stories of ups and downs. I mean, I was stabbed when I was 19 years old, my 19th birthday.
Oh no!
I died three times that night, and I tell everyone sometimes that story, because it's kind of like, here I am, 19 years old, best shape of my life. I had a birthday. We go out, and it just so happened that I just ran into the wrong people, the wrong time, and I could not be here today. But I think God I don't know why, right? But it's a part of my story. So it goes on and on.
I love it. And now it's a part of my story, because I've heard it from you, and all these years later, after your 19th birthday, we're having a conversation that never would have happened before. And I find that has now added to my story. So I love that.
Yeah. So how did you get started? So when you're, where are you from actually?
The saying here in Texas, I'm in Texas.
Okay.
And the saying, if you weren't born here, is, I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could. And so my parents moved down from Minnesota to Texas when I was in second grade, and my father was an entrepreneur, so I just grew up thinking that's normal. So I've always been an entrepreneur.
That's right. So what was your first okay, let's start with the age. So let's go. When was the first time you realized that you learned how you can make money by asking?
Yes. Yeah. That was still in elementary school, because what I discovered, a friend of mine shared these. He used to take toothpicks, put them in a little jar, fill them with cinnamon oil, and then take them out, dry them, put them in tin foil, and he would, use them during the day. And I thought, that's amazing, because I thought I would pay for that. Right. So I learned I went home, talked to my mom. She helped me do it. And I was selling cinnamon toothpicks and making a mint. It was crazy.
That is great. I remember that. I remember
Yeah.
that. So that was in elementary. And then when did you get your really first kind of job, or what did you do from there? Tell me the story where you kind of go through, because this is where I'm at right now with a lot of people.
Right.
You have to go sometimes back and see where you really started selling.
Yes.
Or convincing or begging.
Yeah, there's a big difference between entrepreneurial work and sales. When I first started, because I grew up in an entrepreneurial home, my father did. He had the second largest stained glass studio in the country and would do church windows.
Right.
And so I grew up thinking it was normal for him to go sell. I would go with him all the time, and he would meet with every denomination and, talk about their windows. And
Wow.
I eventually went from just learning at his footsteps to doing the artwork myself for the windows.
Wow.
Yeah. And then again, it was just cheap labor for him. And then after high school, or in high school, is when I actually started selling my own stuff. I would fix up bicycles. I would sell them. I'd find junkers, put them together, repaint them, and sell them. And then also computers came out the summer between junior and senior year in high school. Personal computers. My school district decided they're going to add some computers. None of the teachers knew how to use them, but I had been studying from computer magazines. I had been writing code by hand on a notepad.
Right.
And so I volunteered to help, and ended up selling the computers to the school, selling myself as a senior in high school, training the teachers and training the kids. It was insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how much were you making? Let's just use that.
Well, yeah, it wasn't a ton, because it was 82. And I was young. So to me, it felt like I was making a lot, but off the computers alone, I probably made about $10,000, So
that's pretty good.
At that age, I was big balling, right? I mean, I was the king. But then actually went to college, paid for college by hiring my college friends to do work for my clients who I was selling database design, because nobody was doing databases at the time. I would help people. This is still at the time when you had to hand write envelopes and things like that. Right. So I would put it into a database and print out labels for them. And, suddenly I thought, I don't need to be the one doing this. So I'd hire my friends to do it and make a profit off of that.
Interesting. That's interesting. So yeah, you see, and if we would have had internet back then, we'd probably be totally off, because I was dreaming of entrepreneurship back then. I did little side gigs, and I think you shared about. So me and some friends, we had a grocery store that they would throw away stuff in the trash cans.
Nice.
Like shoes. I mean, I'm talking nice shoes, boots, swing sets, and we would get that stuff out, and we would piece it all together and resell it. And it's like, you think about little things that we did when we were kids, right? Cutting grass, whatever. So what happened? So you kind of started. I mean, that you started out early in the computer world.
Yeah.
And doing, sharing some of the insight on, you're already getting people to work for you back then. So you're early 20s. Is that right?
Well, yeah, that was, very early 20s. Yeah.
And then, so what kind of progressed you from there?
As I took a job with the YMCA of Greater Houston, and my passion has always been sports too. So I took a job as a youth sports director. Well, first thing I noticed at that branch was they're doing everything by hand. So I lugged my computer up there and set up a database for registration and filling out forms and put in a printer. And then suddenly the Houston Association, which manages 35 branches, they said, "What is going on in that branch? Y'all are so productive." And I showed them. Then they asked me to come downtown to manage all 35 branches and roll out computers across all of them.
Wow.
So yeah, I just kept being right place, right time.
So man, yeah, no. So you started out. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people didn't understand because it was back then DOS, right?
Right.
And
Yeah, exactly.
you get the old DOS and computer, and just learning it was a headache. And so by mastering it like you did, you kind of started out. So that kind of progressed you into more areas.
Yeah, and then I guess I figured out pretty quickly that as a youth sports director doing computer work, I had reached the limit of where I could go in the YMCA.
Right.
So, because they didn't have those positions.
Right.
So I ended up starting my own company. Yeah, I left the YMCA, started my own company, and it was right as the internet was starting. So, suddenly, next thing I know, I'm out selling stuff, having online auctions before eBay existed. So my wife still kicks me that I didn't develop eBay. I'm like, well, I didn't think that big. I should have, but I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, did a lot of that, and then eventually, when eBay did start, I remember living, gosh, for a year and a half, just reselling things on eBay. I would go gather up books, remainders and half price books and stuff like that, and resell them on eBay. Same thing with returned merchandise. Is a lot of the big companies would sell an 18-wheeler full of returns of like vacuum cleaners and sewing machines and appliances. I'd buy the whole thing, put an individual listing up on eBay for each one, and triple, quadruple my money.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you just basically repurposed.
Yeah, just an arbitrage system, kind of like you were doing with your example. Yeah,
that's incredible. So yeah, I did eBay I forgot what year it was. I had a whole bunch of clothes, right, and they were nice shirts and stuff, but I just wasn't wearing them, and so I put them on eBay, and dude, I sold them at full price.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, there were people buying it from other countries, and I tell everyone eBay, and you just put it out there, and you never know where it's going to go, right?
Yeah, it's just a simple arbitrage that you found that opportunity, and since then the profit has shrunk. It's not as easy to make money on eBay as it used to be because everybody got involved. But if you jump early, you can do well, or crash and burn. That happens too.
Right. So what? So basically, did that on eBay. You started the computer business, and so from there, where did you kind of migrate? And what ages were you right there between a computer and setting up eBay?
That was probably late 20s up to maybe around 30, somewhere in there.
Right around 1980. How old are you?
I am actually 60 this week.
Wow! Happy birthday!
Thank you.
So you're right there in the 1980s.
Yeah, the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. Okay. And so what kind of grew from there?
Well, the thing I noticed, I kind of breezed through college, right? And telling you about that, I just kind of paid for it by having other people work for me. But my degree was exercise physiology, and then a double major in psychology. And just because those interested me, I thought I was going to be a football coach. I discovered, I don't want to deal with school boards and parents and all of that stuff. I just wanted to coach football.
Right.
So I didn't go that route. Instead, I went YMCA. I went my own business. But from there, I had also started a cabling company, because this is before Wi-Fi. So I would run cable in buildings, run RJ45 cable to get internet on different floors. And we got jobs all over Houston. I was in Houston at the time. And, we'd get a job that was 400 drops in a building, which is a pretty good job.
Right.
And then I opened a video production company, which we did some indie film, but we also did a ton of motivational speakers.
Okay.
So we had, folks like Paul Allen, Tony Robbins, Mark Victor Hansen, a whole bunch of these, when they'd come to Houston, or sometimes they would fly me out to where they were, have a 3-team crew, set up the video. We would create DVDs that they'd sell at the back of the room.
Wow. So you were doing that back then?
Yes. Yeah.
Because I watch Tony, I watch Dean I keep on messing his name up, but he's partners with Tony Grazioni.
Right. Yeah. Now I'm gonna mess it up.
I'm gonna say Dean G.
There you go.
But I watched them, and today they have an event tonight with Eric War, or today actually. I think they have a lot of different speakers on, but it was just fascinating back then.
Yeah.
I remember ordering. I mean, I still have stuff, videotapes. I got cassettes, I got CDs.
Nice.
And it's just back then you didn't. So you were part of that whole era. So you saw them from the beginning when they were nobody. Yeah. So you had the opportunity to building relationships with them back then.
Yeah. If anything, though, it's another example of me being too early, because I didn't see the big picture,
right.
Or if I'd have focused, and part of it is ADHD, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
If I'd have focused and built eBay, would have been a different story. If I'd have focused and built this, self-help, empire, that would have been a focus. But if not, I just kept going on to other things. And about 30 years ago is right around then is when I discovered, what all these businesses have in common, besides the fact that they were successful, was that I was marketing them all. So I started my marketing company, Fresh Media Works, sold off my video production company. Cabling was dying because, Wi-Fi was coming in.
Right.
So I just closed that one and started the video production company. And then, again, 10 years, not video production, sorry, the marketing.
Okay.
And then 10 years later, podcasting was invented. I happen to know the inventors. So
who are the inventors?
Adam Curry and Dave Weiner. Adam Curry, people may know from MTV. He was an MTV VJ who did a heavy metal show.
Okay.
Headbangers Ball or something like that. And Dave Weiner was Silicon Valley guy. They invented it, and I happened to be doing a lot of internet radio at the time, just playing around.
Right.
So I knew them. And when we were talking about it, I thought, what would work as a podcast? Texas high school football. What an easy sell in Texas, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I did. I started the 5th one ever in history, and it's called Lone Star Gridiron.
Wow.
That one is still going, and now it's much more than one show. It does during the football season about 15 different shows, and not episodes. These are different shows. We do regional shows, coaches shows, all kinds of stuff like that related to Texas high school football.
And how many subscribers do you feel you have, or how many?
The typical one of those shows averages about, during the football season, 25,000 to 30,000 a week.
Wow.
So it's pretty insane. Yeah. It's ridiculous numbers.
That is incredible. So your podcast is mainly through the football.
Well, that's where it started.
That's where it
started. Yeah. 2004 is when I started it, and I tested it with a hyper local show, which was, I did one called This Week in Houston. That one, it was magic. It got me into the Super Bowl. It got me into all kinds of things that were going on in Houston because I was quote unquote media, right?
Right.
And then I did a regional show, which is the Texas high school football. Then I did an international show called the Pod Music Countdown, which by then a bunch of shows were popping up playing music. And I was kind of like the Casey Kasem of podcasting. And they would report to me what songs they were playing. I would play a top 10 each week of who's getting the most plays.
Okay.
And it was a ton of indie music because nobody had the rights to play ASCAP or BMI music at the time,
right?
In podcasts. So it was all indie artists, but it was Clear Channel Communications was kind of changing the radio scene at the time.
Okay.
And they were taking over all the stations, which means they got rid of anybody who was old or not pretty. So James Brown, his last album, he could not get played on radio. He debuted on my podcast. Yeah. And then a lot of new artists couldn't get played. They couldn't break in. Death Cab for Cutie, Ingrid Michaelson, they all debuted on my podcast. And and again, that show I should have kept up because it had a huge audience. It just was too early again for the advertisement. People didn't understand it. I spent most of 2005 traveling the country, speaking to business groups and college groups, saying, look, this new thing is here, this podcasting, it's going to change everything. You can be the media. Yeah. And I got blank stares and crickets. I mean, it was way too early.
So let me ask you, so even like today, I think still people are just not understanding it. They're not understanding the power of how it's the best way to tell your story and to market yourself. And I'm part of a group here. It's called LeDuc Entertainment. And I started when COVID happened is when I started my podcast, or I started doing this, right?
Sure.
And he was doing it also, and he comes from the film industry. And so I went to his place and saw that he had his office set up in 3 different sets. So it was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So you look like you're in 3 different sets. You're out of an office, right? Yeah. And it's the same thing when you look at movies. Sometimes you don't realize that all it is they're in a warehouse, and the warehouse is split up into like 4, 5, 6, 10 different sceneries. So you can go from kind of like the Carol Burnett show, right? So you go from one door to another door to another door. And so he's grown very, very well with especially attorneys. So we do a podcast with Spaghetti in a Wall, and also partnerships for profit. And we're showing people how to use the podcast as a tool. And for some people, they don't know that, they don't understand the technical stuff. They don't. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up. And if it wasn't for like people like you or myself that kind of do it, just fumble through it, then you start realizing the different programs that makes it easier. But you got to do it. You just got to practice.
Yeah. And so it was probably about, I don't know, 10 years ago when people started to understand it makes sense to do it, right? I mean, now my mom knows what a podcast is. So now everybody understands how big it is. But you're right. A lot of people jump in and realize after a few episodes, wow, this is actually work. Right. And so that's one of the things we do is we do all the heavy lifting for them. I think the stat I saw said of the 25 million podcasts that have been created, 95% never made it past episode 11. And that's just because it's work, right?
Wow. So 25 million podcasts created, but only 95% never made it past the 11th.
Yeah.
Because they never saw they're looking for something. They're looking for monetization. They're looking for something, but they don't realize that it's not so much you're going to get something real quick. It's all about the content and over time building it. Am I correct?
Yeah. Or they did not understand what goes into producing a good podcast. So they had just said, oh, we thought we'd turn on a switch and record and that's it. But there's editing, there's distribution, there's formatting, there's a lot of little things to do. Another stat, though, that I heard, which is super promising, is I think it came out January of this year, was the most trusted media in the world right now, beating everything else, are podcast hosts.
I know you said something about that the other day. So the most trusted media in the world is podcasting?
Yeah, the host, because it's that relationship. People listen to your show and you talk to people about passion. They feel like they know you. It's that know, like, and trust again. And when they need something that you provide, of course they're going to think of you because, heck, you've been inside their brain, in their earbuds for X number of episodes.
No, it's a psychological. It takes, like, I'm blocking out Mondays. Okay, so I have a lawn care business. I do different things. I have a transportation business and I have a lawn care business, the main two. And I've been in insurance real estate for many years. And just like yourself, there are certain things that you do. I started doing video email marketing back in 2010.
Nice.
This is where people did not understand even email marketing, much less video email marketing.
Right.
And I had a few clients that would I would go to some car dealerships, and I told them, I said, dude, I mean, this is the best way for you to get they didn't get it.
Yeah.
And I actually got a job at a car dealership selling Mercedes-Benz because I didn't have a sales background. I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't sell cars. I sold everything else.
Sure.
And the guy said, well, because I didn't have car experience sales, I wasn't hired. I went home that night. I did it on my little project. It was a company based out of Vegas. It was Richard Call, multimillionaire from network marketing companies. He started this company because he saw the future of the video. And so me and a good friend of mine, Drew, started with it down here in the Louisiana area. And I was doing teachings, trainings, I was coaching, I was doing everything to where, and so I went home that night, I did a video, I put a couple of cars in there and I sent it to the guy. So when he opened up his email the next morning, it was me doing a video. Hey, Mike, I do appreciate the opportunity. I understand I don't have car sales experience, but I have marketing experience. So if you would like to just look around, this is how I'm going to sell cars. He called me up. He said, dude, you're hired.
Nice.
Majority of the salespeople did not understand why I wasn't walking outside around waiting for people.
Right.
I said, what are you doing? I said, well, I mean, I'm sending this to people in our database. And that's how I sold cars. I sold cars from the database of my computer to people in different states because it's the power of the internet, right? And it's like sometimes it takes you a little bit of time to really kind of get it, but that is where we are.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. You're not a buzzard flying around waiting for something to die. You're out there making something.
I mean, my brain, and I'm thinking, I think you probably the same way. It's just my brain works at, okay, how can I get exposure and attention? And sometimes you got to look at your channels. I think a lot of people, especially I work with a lot of small business owners that they're good at their profession. They're a good electrician. They're good at contracting. They're good at microblading, whatever it may be, but they're not good at marketing.
Right.
And they're not good at selling because they don't feel confident enough to go walk into anywhere and start selling their services. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I try to help a lot of them understand that all you're doing is use your social media channels to promote your before and afters. Promote what you do. Because if people don't know what you do, how do you expect them to ever reach out to you?
Yeah.
And
it's hard. So you mentioned getting out there in other channels. The term I like to use is OPA, other people's audiences. And anytime you can get on a stage or just in front of the Rotary Club or on a podcast, being a guest, better yet, having your own show, you suddenly get exponential growth versus picking up the phone or walking into one office and hoping that one's going to turn into money.
I look at it as time. My time is very valuable. And back then, yes, it was okay because I never knew anything else, right? And I think you probably the same. You build relationships, go into networking events, you walk into offices, you introduce yourself, give them a card, but it's just the time. It's like I don't have enough time in a day to do that, right? Yeah. So I'm looking at this as this is what I feel is my future, and you've been in a lot longer than I have. And you have a lot more experience, so I'm excited about it because I'm just now really over the last year really putting more energy and effort into getting my templates better, getting the thumbnails better, all the stuff that you and I know that it takes time to learn it. Yep. I tried to find people to do it, but it's either one, they're charging way too much. Two, they're not. It's like they don't have a creative mindset. And it's like you're just not giving me what I want. Right. So
it's tough. That's a struggle. Definitely.
So where do you, so now you have your, I mean, where are you now? So I'm watching your channel now. So you have a lot of variety of different videos. And I watched one of your videos this morning on that speech that you just now said, other people's audiences, which is awesome.
Nice.
So what do you, so you have different individuals who you share, or just different things that you just share with the audiences?
Yeah. We've got actually the channel I use a lot now is a community we have on School, SKOOL.
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, we've got a community called Business Success Academy, and it's for people who are wanting to improve business, wanting to do better, but not waste their time on fluff, So we're very picky about who we let in. We're not letting, as of right now, you qualify, but we'll see. But yeah.
And I'll invite you to mine too. So we can get into it. We can get on other people's stages and get ourselves crossed.
Amen. Yeah. And what we try to do is keep out the people who are just there to spam, just there to take. We want givers. We want people who are going to share their expertise. You have immense expertise in video, email, and some of the other areas. So if you share that with our audience, they are more likely to share with you their expertise. I've got somebody in there who is a master at business networking, and he's literally written several books on it. Got people in there that have so many different skills. But number one, they're there to help each other.
Correct.
They're there to look, when I do have a problem, I'm going to go to the group and say, here's what I'm looking at. I'm trying to figure this out. And people will jump in, and they'll say, here's what I do, or here's what worked for me, or oh, I can't help you, But yeah, so that's really the key is getting like-minded people together and have a mastermind that you can count on.
No, you're right, because it's you can't learn, and I'm going through this myself right now, that I learn by video and hearing. Now I have tons of books, right? I've had the pleasure of being with John Maxwell, being associated with Tony Oling from courses. I haven't had a chance to shake his hand yet, but I watch, Grant Cardone. I watch a lot of people, and so I find that it's like I have these different books that I want to create, but at the same time, I don't know how to get them really kind of perfect, right? I don't know. Yeah. I haven't found that ghostwriter to kind of help me kind of go through it and figure, okay, if I'm going to do this, the whole goal of doing it, just say I have a book. But at the same time, yes, if I can turn it into audio and in different courses and things of that nature. So it's like a process. So you have to find groups of people like yourself and myself that we want to help. And as a group, we're going to grow faster versus trying to do it on our own. Yeah. And if I have an idea and that's where I come with joint ventures. So I joint venture with a lot of people because I have two different companies that I don't know anything about besides the vision. That I had to partner up with some individuals who had the technical. One's an architect. Two others are connected with large. They used to build truck stops. And so we have an EV charging concept that we've been playing with for the last few years. So I said, well, okay, I had the idea, I had the vision, I had the thought pattern. And that's where I realized, like you said, I think earlier, that you sometimes have to find people to help you with the selling or marketing or doing the service.
Right.
The same thing with where we are right now in this world. I think it's going so fast that if you get into the communities like yours or mine, that you're going to learn faster.
Yeah.
Versus going to any school or going to any class or anything, because they don't teach it. The average teachers are not teaching the basics of business, the basics of what you need to do to get a job in today's world. And I hate to say that, but it is what it is. No,
I know. There's a great book by the gentleman's last name is Gatta, Gatta, called Weapons of Mass Instruction. And it talks about the school system, how it was brought over from Germany and designed to teach you discipline, to stand in line, to raise your hand, to answer the questions in the format they want, which completely pulls all the creativity out of a human. It's not, they don't want us creative. They want us to be employees. And that's what these groups that we're talking about, we say, forget that. We want to do our best and live to our fullest. You can't do that as an employee.
I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I talk to everyone about ESBI. Now, at the same time, I tell most people that sometimes you might have to stay an E.
Yep.
Until you create the skills,
Yep.
the systems, and the platforms to become an S.
Yes.
And to go from an S, which is a self-employed, to the business owner part of it, that's a huge jump.
Huge. Yeah.
And some people don't realize. So I tell everyone, so listen, work your job, stay there as long as you can, take advantage of all the benefits.
Yep.
Set up an LLC today. Well, I don't know. Just
doesn't matter.
Just set it up.
Yep.
And I'm going to show you how to get that 10, 15. I have some boat captains that make $1,000 plus per day.
Nice.
So they're paying $30,000 to $50,000 a year in taxes.
Yeah.
When I tell them this, I say, wait a second, you telling me I can work and then set up a business on the side? I say, yeah, you don't. And people are thinking, and I had this conversation with my daughter and her friend because they're starting a little business, and they're thinking because once they set up the LLC that they're going to be paying taxes.
Right.
So you're not going to be paying taxes on anything.
Right.
You're not making any money.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you want to be in a position where you have to pay taxes because that means you're producing a lot of income.
Correct. But if you're an employee,
right,
that's the only tax benefit that you got to where now you can write off part of your house, different things to get that tax money back. And when you get the tax money back, then utilize that money to invest into your business, your education, your knowledge. You're basically using your work for the bank. And then two, most people don't realize when you become an employee and self-employed, it's harder to go to the bank.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
The bank, they don't care if you have a Walmart job. Yeah. As long as you have a steady job with a paycheck is what the banks and lenders want to see. And that's where so many people get caught. Most people have never heard of the Rich Dad Poor Dad concept.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out how to reinvent that concept into just a new generation world. So maybe we can talk about that.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Because that's what I feel.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. It also reminds me of a book by MJ DeMarco called The Millionaire Fast Lane. And it is a great way of looking at it. You know, the slow lane is get a job, put money away in a 401k. You know,
right.
But you can start in the slow lane, but put that money away to something you can leverage much quicker and much bigger, broader, and faster. You know, your own business, because I can control my income as a business owner. I cannot control it other than, getting a 3% cost of living raise. I can't control much of that. I can't control the market when I put it in a 401k. But I can, like you mentioned earlier, tweak some things we're doing to make a higher profit, get in front of another audience to expand who you're reaching. And, you can grow 10,000%. In 6 months, if you're smart about it and if you're lucky, but you can never grow that fast in the slow lane.
And they go to you. Like I had a friend of mine, tax planner, I had him on earlier, and we were talking about just different ways of how the lack of planning of not only having a will with a lot of people do not have wills. And then two, when it comes down to estate planning, people wait until the last minute.
Yeah.
And something happens and you can have millions lost to the government because of lack of planning and strategizing. And that's where the mastermind group's coming in so valuable, that just by being in the right place at the right time and listening to the right people, you learn all the different things, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether it's overcoming objections, whether it's, just insurance itself. Insurance is a very complicated conversation.
Yeah.
I've been in insurance for many years. When I think I probably created a lot of divorces because you're sitting down with a husband and wife and you're saying, okay, you need $1 million of life insurance. I don't know about that. And then all of a sudden she's looking at him. And so it's like, okay.
All right. Trust me. My wife and I have had those conversations.
So I remember some phone calls. Say, Renee, listen, don't bother. We have a change of plans.
I love that. Yeah, you're right. And the tax code you mentioned, it's written for business owners. So that's why you have to be one.
Correct. So where are you at now that, okay, so you got the school community, which I can't wait to be part of that program. So you got the school community, you're still obviously doing your podcast with the sports. And with the fresh, with your fresh, is that still like growing?
Yeah, that's
too?
the parent company. Fresh Media Works is the parent marketing company.
Okay.
Under that, we do things like the podcasting, where we have shows we produce. We have a network of shows we help promote and grow and find guests for, sell ads for. We also, under podcasting, will help people launch and grow their shows, and we do a lot of those, helping people get into that business, create their audiences.
Okay. Interesting. So that might be a good little niche for me to work with you.
Yeah. And we have a great referral program.
Perfect. Then. Okay. And I know I have so many things that I can stay on here for 5 hours with you.
Right.
So I know I'm going to have to cut this, another 30 minutes if you got it. So where do you see right now is the main areas where people going into 2025, where do you see people need to put a lot of focus on?
Yeah.
From a small business owner to a solopreneur to an entrepreneur, what are you seeing with AI? If you can kind of give me your feedback on some of that.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of businesses, especially marketers, whatever they sell is what they tell people is the thing they need, right? The SEO guy says SEO will solve everything. But we're technology agnostic. It's podcasting now just because it's so hot. Yes, I love it. I will always continue to do it.
Right.
But if next year podcasting is dead and you don't get the return you get now, right now the return on ad spend in podcasting beats every other medium. It's 4.9x. So it's crazy good. So now everybody should be podcasting, regardless of what your business is, or at the very least, guesting on a podcast or selling or buying ads in podcasts, because it makes great sense right now. But you mentioned AI. That's what's taking a lot of our time right now, is training people on AI. I'm doing those same talks I was giving on podcasting. I'm going around giving talks on AI right now about how you as a business owner must get involved or you're going to be left behind, because there's so many great tools that can streamline what it is you do. Right. It's also easy to go down rabbit holes of doing stuff that's cool, but doesn't help.
Correct.
So I would say, if you're not playing around with AI yet, you should get started. At least go to ChatGPT, start asking it, what can you do for me? And it will tell you. And don't worry, you can't break it. You can't break it at all. So just do whatever the heck, and get started. And come to some communities like yours and mine, where you've got experts who can have, we do trainings on AI right now in our group.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, podcasting AI, that's where it's at right now.
So what do you feel? Okay. So let me kind of back up. So when I look at right now, what I'm doing is I'm focused a lot on LinkedIn and YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Facebook and TikTok, a little bit on Instagram. So I'm not really too familiar with Snapchat and other things. I just don't have enough time and enough bandwidth, right? So I'm using ChatGPT, and it's helping me kind of give me a guide, right? For when I put in there, create me a post or create me a newsletter of 1,500 words, et cetera. Now, have you heard of Blaze.ai yet? Mm-hmm. I mean, that so far for me has basically become my secretary. And it's crazy how I've been able to post every hour, pretty much on an hour, with using that platform just by creating some different things. So that's really changed my game there. And I'm still trying to play with like in video and vidIQ and things of that nature. So you can, when you look at the cost of some of these programs, they're very minimal. I mean, I look at it anywhere between $15 and $20, $25 a month, but I look at it from a perspective that for what I'm paying and what I would have to pay a traditional marketing company, majority, you can pay thousands, right?
Right.
Now, at the same time, if you want more, you want really bigger, that's where companies like yours comes in, which is valuable, because I look at it from the perspective, just you're paying for a service that can collapse the time frame. It's all about time right now. So if you got the money, invest it now. So the time, you're basically getting more things out there faster, right? Right. Speed is what I'm looking at, speed right now. That the faster I can get content out there, the faster I can do more podcasts, the faster I can get my show up to 200, 300 episodes, then it's going to get into the world faster before more people come in. Because we're at that pit. You find we're right now at that point where people will come in, but it's not saturated.
No, not at all. Right.
And it's still, for people like you and I that are ahead of the game, we become the future Tony Robbins, the future teachers.
Right.
Is where I'm seeing the vision.
Yeah. And you mentioned a couple things there. You mentioned the different channels you're trying to grow. I just did a video series or not series, it's just a one video that I posted on that subject, because we did a deep dive into a bunch of different channels and analyze what we actually get out of it. TikTok is amazing for getting an audience. TikTok, you don't sell anything though, you don't make money from it. So if your goal is to be TikTok famous dancing, go for it. But I tell people, don't waste your time on it right now.
Right.
Podcasting, you talk about video. YouTube makes sense. It's the second largest search engine in the world, but audio only converts on a call to action 4 times better than video.
Really?
And that's, if you think about it, it makes sense, because when I'm driving somewhere, I can listen to a podcast. When I'm walking the dog, gardening, whatever, I can listen to audio.
Okay.
But it's tough to watch video. The other thing, we're in video right now.
Right.
People watching are going, is that a gold record on the back screen? I wonder what those books are on the shelf. And they're distracted. Right. You don't get distracted in audio. You're in their brain.
Gotcha. And I guess I kind of look at it as, by doing the video, I can convert the video into audio.
Yes, do both. Yes.
Blogs so that's where I kind of, my thought pattern is, okay, I'm trying to figure out how I can take one piece of content and split it up in 20, 30 different pieces, right?
Yeah, so, and I think you're doing it. You record it, you put it out there to YouTube, you also clip it up and send it out to all the different channels. But pull that audio, send it to Spotify, send it to iTunes.
That's where I need your help at, because I don't know how to do that. So that might be
easy. We can get that set up easy. Yeah.
Because I have a whole bunch of stuff that I'm creating right now. I think that I just need to get better on some different subjects that I want to be specific on, and really going through what we're talking about to show people, hey, step 1, step 2, step 3. I think some people are getting overwhelmed. You can get totally overwhelmed with all of the different content out there.
Right.
You listen to this person. So I'm trying to figure out what is my strong points. Like right now for LinkedIn, to create the newsletters, LinkedIn is purposely pushing them in front of people who don't know. So I'm kind of looking at LinkedIn as really, it has so much opportunity with it versus Facebook. Right. So like you said earlier, you got to be a little bit on the TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, but I find LinkedIn is probably going to be my main channel to really showcase everything in one, but push them to whether it's going to be the YouTube or to my websites, right?
Yeah, or to the audio version. You should list all of them in the newsletter, because people like to consume things different ways. But you're right.
Gotcha.
That's what drives commerce. At the end of the day, you want some sort of commerce to happen, right? You want to sell a book, you want to fill a seminar, you want to fill your group. There's something you want to happen.
So what is some of the parts of what is some of the service, I guess, you render? I mean, when people want to go to learn more about you, do they go to the freshmediaworks.com?
Yeah, freshmediaworks.com just has some basic stuff that tells you about how we launch your podcast, things like that. It tells you about AI, but it doesn't go into great detail. Most of them are just fill out this form and we'll get back to you, or click here and we'll set up a call. And then the group is the same thing. You go to the group and you have access. As you know, the way school works is the more interactive you are, the more people like your comments and stuff, the higher level you go. And that unlocks more courses, that unlocks more videos. So we want to reward the people who are being a part of the community. and we kick out people who are not active in the community because, it's like you said, life is too short. I don't have time to mess around with somebody who doesn't want to do anything.
Yeah, no. It's right now. I got so many conversations on a daily basis, and I try to prioritize that. Who am I spending time with?
Yeah.
That is going to help me move closer to the goal, because time is short, time is precious, and we don't get it back.
Right.
And it takes daily right now, because of the life we live in. It's trying to put together systems that can buy back that time. And it's like, I've got to be very cautious on a daily basis. I'm sure you're the same, that who do I get on a podcast, or who do I spend time, like you're saying, in your communities? I am trying to start up a weekly webinar to where people can come on and we can have different guests, 1 or 2. So I'd love to have you on one of those.
Sure. Yeah.
And that can kind of start building what I feel what Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone and all of them are doing right now is, like you're saying, they're playing on other people's stages.
Yeah.
And when you bring in people like yourself and other people who have a tremendous amount of talents and skills and things of that nature, it just helps the group as a combined group, that we're helping each other grow each other's stages. And at the same time, people get more value from all of us versus just me, right?
Yeah.
Or just from you. Or they come to personalities, like certain personalities may relate to you better than me, right? So, or you might have a female that comes into our group that relates to the females, right?
Right.
So it's kind of a combination of things that I'm trying to play with right now and putting together as my What's Your Passion platform starts growing. We have a newsletter. It's called The Whip. That's starting to kind of get some ground, but at the same time, I'm just kind of critiquing a little bit. So I'm working on all these different projects, and I'm just a one-man show, but I have about 3 or 4 other people that are starting to work with me. And I just find that the next 2 to 3 years it's going to take a combination of people within the mastermind that we're growing, and just see how we can fast pace, I guess you can say, this process. So if you don't mind, just share with me, like, what are some of the things that you feel right now that you want to share with the audience, or share with the world, that what are some of the things that you're really passionate about at this point with your current business, with Fresh Media Works? And I see a lot of different information here that I'm going to have to talk to you about later. But what are some of the things you feel is the key points that people need to focus on going into 2025?
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a solopreneur, you're a small business owner, what are some of the things that's going to help them move fast?
Yeah.
And what do they need to pay attention to?
Yeah, I think you've touched on it, coming at it from a bunch of different angles, but it all relates to the African proverb, which is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Right.
And that's it, is you've got to fix whatever that circle is. And the other saying is, you're the average of the 5 closest people around you. So, pay attention to who you're communicating with, who you're spending time with. I feel right now, this time I'm spending with you is super valuable, because I feel we're like-minded, and we're going to be doing some work together in some way, for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So that's the key, is get like-minded people. You may have a naysayer in your life, and maybe a significant other, who's telling you, yeah, I don't know, that's pretty scary, or yeah, I don't think that'll work.
Right.
I'm not saying get rid of them. What I'm saying, don't take their advice on this subject. Find people, and they may have good advice, and they may tweak it for you. So don't ignore them completely. Right. But also make sure you're working with people who understand the stuff that you're going into. I want to be the dumbest person in the room. I definitely want to, every time.
Right. No. I'm watching a lot of videos. I'm part of different masterminds right now. I'm speeding up the process, and I think I'm really getting ready for 2025.
Yeah, me too.
It's kind of like any sports, and you're familiar with this. I mean, you can't win by waiting, and you can't be so scared to do something.
Yeah.
You can't be so scared to touch something or spend a little bit of money on education or knowledge. And if you want to get better, like for what I'm doing, it's just because I've been doing it for the last almost year to 2 years. playing around, but just recently it started clicking. Because some things, I don't know how you are, but sometimes it just,
I'm with you.
all of a sudden, pop. It's like, damn. And you know when it comes out, you know when it comes to me? When I'm laying down trying to go to sleep.
Yeah. It comes down in the morning because I get up real early and I have my Zen morning time outside before the sun comes up. And that's when I get all that stuff. So I can go to sleep, no problem. But when I get up, that's prime time for going, aha. But yeah, you also mentioned that don't delay. You're right, because people wait for things to be perfect. And, the old saying, when's the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. It's the same thing with a podcast, with starting a business, with anything. Get started. Don't wait for it to be perfect.
Now, I think AI, I think the AI right now is like you're saying, is like by learning the programs and understanding them. And then just like what you did with the computers, you started the computer business because you learned it, but then you started realizing people needed help with it. And that's the same thing with this. Is I'm trying to kind of look at it and say, okay, if I can learn these programs and utilize it for myself, but then turn around, I learn by teaching. Yes. So I love learning things. And at the same time, it helps me speed up my process by turning around and teaching it. So when I'm watching something, I'm already thinking, okay, how am I going to teach this? Because my brain looks at it from that perspective. I don't know why, but I just look at it. Okay, if I can do this, learn it, and then figure out how I can teach it, then I can learn it faster. But at the same time, it puts me in a position to where it makes me get better. Yep. So I can be able to articulate it better, right? And some people don't get that way of learning. But if you learn it, like you say, if you learn something to teach it and you have a reason why you're trying to do it, you're trying to teach others. So hopefully they can do something with it. And in turn, it all comes back down to helping each other, supporting each other. Yeah. The different strategies that we're all going through.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big believer in that. In fact, last week I spoke to auditorium full of high school students about AI. And I learned so much preparing for that, even though I do it all the time. And then learned some by the interactions with the Q&A too, because there were some things they were doing or angles they thought about that I hadn't. So I'm with you. Teaching is the best way to learn.
Are you seeing some of the young people are catching, they're using it, but are you seeing it, did some of them haven't figured out really how to use it from a business perspective, or how they can use it from getting a job opportunity and things
they're really not getting their heads around it yet. I don't want to just say they're all that way, but the ones I've interacted with are not understanding the business aspect. And that's kind of the angle to my conversation with them, was the personal growth and business growth. And because they're thinking of things like, well, this will write my term paper for me. That's as far as deep as they're going into it. Or this really cool AI will write a song for me and it's funny, but they're not thinking big picture. And that's what my talk was about, is look, this is coming. It's a fast moving freight train. You better get on, or you're going to wake up and go, wait a minute. I have no career prospects. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. So you're right. It's definitely.
That's gonna be another video. I think that's another podcast for us, because that's a whole nother world that's going to take us another 2 hours.
Yeah, no doubt. But it feels like it's 15 minutes. That's a good sign.
No, I do appreciate it, Chris. I'm glad we connected. Like you said, I know that we're going to be doing some things together and working together, because I think we have the same like-minded spirits. And it's always good when you get on these podcasts. It's just learning about other people, getting to know each other, and just sharing. So I do appreciate your time. So if you have anything for, like, freshmediaworks.com is where people can go to find you, and you have all your channels on here: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So you can pretty much be found by Fresh Media Works or by your name, Chris.
Yeah, my name is so odd. I'm easy to find on the internet.
Doelle, which
Correct.
Is pronounced daily.
Right.
All right. Perfect. All right, I'm going to end this, and I do appreciate it. Look forward to the next one, and let me get in this area right now. And then, again, Renee Manfrey, what's your passion? If you enjoyed this video, enjoyed this podcast, and you want to share it, subscribe to my channel, ring the bell. Let me know anything that you're interested in having future information about. So I do appreciate it. And thank you very much again, Chris.
Thank you.